Carol Vorderman, 62, came across a statue of George Orwell yesterday during a visit to the BBC headquarters in London, and according to her, it carried the perfect message of support for Gary Lineker. The inscription on the wall beside the statue spelt out in huge letters, "If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear." In a clear nod to the former footballer, the ex-Countdown star stated, "So I'm at BBC HQ in London and there's a wonderful statue of George Orwell. Look at the words, very apt at the moment." She has also launched a Twitter attack on two other key players at the BBC who she feels have shown a lack of impartiality. She announced that she was calling for the resignation of the BBC board director Robbie Gibb, former Tory comms boss and co-founder of right-wing GB News, on grounds of lack of impartiality. The Star attached a copy of an unearthed article by the Byline Times. The headline she highlighted from 2020, read, "Gold Standard of Broadcasting Impartiality? New BBC board member Sir Robbie Gibb recently championed Boris Johnson." Discussing Johnson's deal on withdrawal from the EU, Robbie was quoted as writing, "This momentous deal not only marks a new chapter in Britain's history but will rightly stand as a historic triumph for a Prime Minister who has all too often been misunderstood and maligned." He added in the quote, "Our Parliament will be free to set its own laws, we will no longer have to pay into the EU coffers and we can set our own immigration policy." Meanwhile, the article also claimed that Robbie Gibb had supported a Tory boycott of BBC Radio 4's Today programme. In an interview with the Taxpayers Alliance, he criticised the show and suggested that the interviews it conducted with politicians were designed simply to attract social media shares. Today, Carol urged followers to flood the BBC with emails of complaint about both Robbie Gibb and Richard Sharp, the BBC chairman who helped Johnson to gain a loan of £800,000. She accused the BBC of hypocrisy for taking a tough stance with one of its presenters, Gary Lineker, but not with board directors who have expressed political views that Gary was warned off discussing. Meanwhile, Carol is one of a number of high-profile celebrities who have publicly voiced their views in support of the Match of the Day star's right to freedom of speech. Gary upset some members of the public, including a prominent rabbi, when he compared the language used in Britain's new immigration bill to that of 1930s Germany. Several million people died in the Holocaust at the hands of the government of Nazi Germany during World War II, and many felt Gary's words had trivialized mass genocide. Some also pointed out that those arriving in Kent on small boats arrived via France, a safe country, meaning their lives would not have been in danger from war or persecution had they not continued into the UK. However, members of the public and a whole host of celebrities, including Piers Morgan, Jeremy Clarkson and Alan Shearer to name just a few, have stated their support of his right to freedom of speech. Former This Morning broadcaster Fern Britton, who initially shrugged off Gary's woes as his own fault for not adhering to the BBC's contractual obligations, later tweeted that she'd misunderstood the facts, and supported him after all. As a show of solidarity, presenters including Alex Scott opted out of participating in this weekend's TV sporting action and it aired without any of the usual faves. However, Match of the Day drew in a record number of views, despite the absence of any punditry at all.